Joe, looks like the experience is key when it comes to customer centricity. You're welcome.
Thank you, Alessio. As Alessio mentioned, I wrote the book on mass customization, but I didn't actually coin the term. It was in fact coined by a gentleman by the name of Stan Davis, and he wrote about it in his book, Future Perfect. And I read it when I was back at IBM way long ago as a strategic planner. And what I realized is that he was really right, that mass customization was where we needed to go at IBM and increasingly elsewhere as well. And mass customization is basically efficiently serving customers uniquely. In other words, giving every customer exactly what they want at a price they're willing to pay. And the framework that Stan Davis showed in his book was this on market development, where he talked about in the beginning were local markets, where everything was bought and sold locally, it was used locally. But then with the advent of the Industrial Revolution, and particularly the system of mass production, is when we shifted into mass markets, where everybody was part of one big market. And thanks to mass production, we could lower the costs of a tremendous amount of goods and then eventually services, so that people who never could afford them before could now buy these offerings that they could not get. But as time went by, as we went from markets down to segments, where we began to segment the marketplace, usually by demographics and other sort of characteristics. And over time, again, those segments kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller, till you got to the point where niches was where all the activity basically was. And what Stan Davis foresaw is that if you take this to its logical conclusion, right, if you go from everybody part of the mass market down to smaller people part of segments, and then smaller yet part of niches, what you eventually get to is what he called mass customized markets. In other words, markets where every customer is his own market, what we call today markets of one. And that's what mass customization can serve, is serve these markets of one, where we need to understand that every customer in there is in fact unique. And every customer deserves to get exactly what they want at a price they're willing to pay. Now, of course, that's the way it was back in the time of local markets, is that every customer was unique back then. But they were served by craftsmen for the most part, where you could get things done uniquely for you, but it would cost a lot of money to be able to do that. But you know what? During the time of mass markets, think of Henry Ford and the system of mass production, the same thing was true. Every customer was unique back then too. But because we were willing to forego that uniqueness to buy the same thing for everybody, as Henry Ford said, you can have any color car you want as long as it's black, because we could afford cars, and otherwise we wouldn't be able to afford them if they were craft produced. Same thing with niches, same thing with segments, is that all across this entire progression is that every customer has always been unique. Therefore, it's important to understand that there, in fact, are no markets. There are only customers. There are no markets, there are only customers. Markets, as commonly conceived of in business, simply do not exist. They're a convenient fiction for companies that do not treat customers as the individuals they truly are. But a customer is not part of a market or a segment or a niche or a generation or a persona or any other agglomeration of anonymous buying units of indeterminate size. A customer is an individual, living, breathing person. Or if you sell to other businesses, it's an individual corporate enterprise. So we must therefore ascend to the proposition that all customers are unique. Undeniably, unremittingly, unalterably unique. And what that means is that we need to stop marketing and instead put into practice the principles of customering. Right? Customering. Now, we made up that term, customering, just as marketing was once made up. But let me give you a very simple definition for what customering is. Basically, customering is interacting directly with individual customers to create customer-unique value within them. That's what customering is. And there's a number of principles that we can talk about that really comprise customering and fill out what customering really means. And so the first principle I want to talk about is that we need to go beyond the push mentality that is so prevalent in marketing, where you push your products out there. And you make these products, you put them in inventory, you push them out there, you hope that they meet customers' demands, but even if they don't, you don't care. You're going to push them to continue to sell them. Instead, when we practice customering, we need to go from push to pull. Right? From push to pull, we need to pull from individual living, breathing customers. We need to pull their individual needs, their unique demands, the things that they want, and then respond to them by customizing our offerings to them. So everything has to begin with the customer in a pull mentality that comprises customering. And that leads directly to the principle about understanding we have to go from product centricity, right? Being product centric means we're focused on that product that we made and then again pushing it out there, and everything is about selling that product, to becoming truly customer centric, to focus and starting with the individual living, breathing customer. And everything starts with the customer and again pulls back into the company so we can respond to what they need. When the first time a client asked me to talk to them about customer centricity, I did what we often do, which is go to the dictionary. I went, okay, what do these words mean? And you look up a customer, right? The dictionary will tell you it's one who frequents any place of sale for the sake of purchasing, one who customarily purchases from a particular tradesman, a buyer or purchaser. In other words, a customer is the one who pays you money, right? Very simple. A customer is the one who pays you money. And centricity, what is that? Well, it's a centric quality or position related to a center. So it's customer centricity is the one who pays you money placed at the center of everything you do. And that's what you need to do, is place that customer, individual customer, not market, not segment, not customers, not the customer, as we often say, right? But the individual customer at the center of everything we do. And there is, in fact, one word that I like to emphasize in this definition. The one word I like to emphasize is the word one. Again, it is the one. It is the individual, the unique individual. That's what we need, who we need to place at the center of everything that we do. And that's what Amazon.com does, right? One of the most customer-centric companies in the world. And Jeff Bezos talks about his true customer obsession, and in a letter to shareholders in that, he talked that there are many advantages to a customer-centric approach, but here's the big one. Customers are always beautifully, wonderfully dissatisfied. Even when they don't yet know it, customers want something better, and your desire to delight customers will drive you to invent on their behalf. Right? Customer centricity does not mean pandering to customers, to just do what they tell you that they want you to have. Right? It's understanding who they are and then inventing on their behalf, doing things on their behalf, taking them down a road that allows them to get more of what they want, what they demand, and what they need. So to do that, we need to go from being product-centric to customer-centric. And then the next principle is to go from targeting. You think about targeting, right? Marketing is great at targeting. They're slinging arrows in the backs of people. They're based, again, generally off of demographics, which are all great, except they tell you absolutely nothing about an individual customer, because you don't know if they fit the standard profile of that demographic or not. But we're going to use our demographics, and then we're going to sling these arrows into their backs, bombard them with advertisements that interrupt, basically, what it is that we're trying to do increasingly online, right? We're trying to get something done, and we're going to interrupt you. And that rarely works. Instead, we need to go from targeting to enticing, to entice customers, right? To bring them into a relationship with you. And the best way to entice customers is with an experience that's so engaging that they can't help but pay attention to you, spend time with you, and then pay up by buying your offering as a result. And one of my favorite examples, actually, since we're here in Bogotá, I'll mention, is the Juan Valdez Cafe. The Colombia Coffee Growers Association realized that once Starbucks came out and created all these wonderful coffee drinking experiences, that they were sort of losing control of coffee consumption. So they created the Juan Valdez Cafe in the U.S., here in Colombia and other places around the world, to be able to expose people to Colombian coffee, knowing that if they get them to drink the coffee, to experience what the taste of the particularness of Colombian coffee, then the chances they'll buy it in the grocery store and elsewhere, in fact, go up. Right? It's an enticing experience into Colombian coffee is what Juan Valdez is. And you think about Apple, right? Think about all the wonderful products they want. Every one of them designed, right, in particular, to be an experience as you use them, right? You just see one, and it entices you to come over and want to pick it up and play with it. And they even don't just work on the product; they work on the out-of-box experience, right? There's tens of thousands of YouTube videos on the out-of-box experience of their particular Apple device. That everything is designed just so to entice you to want to open it and to get into that product. And then again, you have the Apple stores. Right? I can still remember when Steve Jobs announced that Apple was getting into retail. It was back in 2002, and he actually got lambasted in the business press. The people said, you're a manufacturer, a designer. What are you doing going into retail? You're going to tick off your channel partners. You're not going to know how to do it. You're going to fail miserably. And he proved them wrong by not just creating a retail store, but a retail experience. One where you can go in and play with the products, experience them before you buy them. Everything is live. Everything can be touched and used inside of there. And I think of their most iconic store is this one on Fifth Avenue in New York City, where it's just glass cube, and you walk through there and you descend into this store that's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Right? Really an enticing experience that they have created. And now, of course, it is dependent on great products. Apple's, in fact, the #1 retailer in the entire world in sales per square foot. They get over $6,000 US per square foot across their 400-plus stores around the world, whereas the average retailer gets maybe $300 or $400, an order of magnitude more, and it's because of that experience. But again, also predicated on the great products. If you didn't have great products, then having that great experience wouldn't work as well. But when you combine great products with great experience, with a great enticing experience, that's when magic can happen. But Apple isn't resting on their laurels. They're actually coming out with a new format, the Town Square format, to make it even more of a conversational place, a social place that you sort of happen to find yourself in. And then, of course, where it all comes together is the actual using of Apple's products and the experience that we have with them, for so many hours every day, right? An entire enticing set of experiences that Apple has created. And that's what it takes to go from targeting to enticing. But once you've enticed them, once they bought from you, once they become a customer, what you'd also like to do then is cultivate learning relationships with them, to bring them into a relationship that grows and deepens over time. And I'll mention again Amazon.com, because Amazon is a relentless learning machine. Right? Everything they do is to learn about you. In my case, they learned, of course, my name and how to greet me. They learned my address to be able to send me products to. They learned my credit card numbers. I don't have to repeat it. They actually learned that I have 2 credit cards, one for business purchases, one for personal purchases, and I can switch back and forth between which one I'm using. And then it learned the names and addresses, for example, of my kids, as I would send them books and other packages when they were in college and so forth, and other friends of mine. And then they, of course, learned what I like to read, what music I like to listen to, what are the things I like to purchase, and so forth. So it could recommend things that fit into what I individually want. And I'm often discovering things on Amazon that is recommending to me that are perfect, that are exactly what I want. Not everything is that way, but they do a better job than anyone else at creating this learning relationship with customers. So what a learning relationship is basically is that every interaction you have with a customer is an opportunity to learn about this individual living, breathing customer. And because you learn about that customer, you're going to be able to better customize to them. And when you better customize to them, giving them exactly what they want, then they're going to benefit from that versus buying off a standard, right? You're going to reduce the sacrifice that they encounter because you've customized it to them. And because they benefit, guess what? They're willing to interact with you again. And every interaction is an opportunity to learn. This is what customer centricity really is putting that individual living, breathing customer at the center of a learning relationship. One, again, that grows and deepens over time. And the idea is to get customers to be so into what you're able to do for them, that everything is so customized for them, that they would never even think about going anyplace else. Because even if there was some other company with the exact same capabilities you have, where they could provide the exact same level of customization and learning, if I were to switch to that company, I'd still have to teach it all over again, what I've taught this particular company. And that's a singularly powerful competitive advantage. And you can see that in B2B as well. Ross Controls is a manufacturer of pneumatic valves, right? It's hard to get more B2B than pneumatic valves that you use in assembly lines and so forth. And what they do is that they talk with every individual customer and collaborate them on what their particular needs are. And then they develop a concept that they design on the computer-aided design equipment. And then they show it to the customer. Then they prototype it. They try it out. Does it work? Great. If not, what doesn't quite work? Across this entire time, they might have 3, 4, 5, 6 interactions until they get it exactly right. And once it's exactly right, then they can spread it across all of the company's equipment, all of the customers' equipment. And I've talked with some customers of theirs. One of them told me that they'd never go anywhere else because Ross already knows so much about them today. There are already 5 or 6 product generations ahead of the other customers. Now, not 5 or 6 product generations in terms of technology, but in terms of what this individual customer wants and needs, right? And that's what cultivating a learning relationship is all about. And again, just a tremendously powerful competitive advantage. So with that, you want to go from finished products, where again, we produce this thing, we put it in inventory, we put it on a lot somewhere, we put it on a shelf somewhere, we put it on a rack somewhere, and then we sell off of that, right, the standard product that we hope fits everybody, to actually going to modular capabilities, to modularizing our offerings, right? That's the key to mass customization. So for example, Original Stitch is a company that mass customizes shirts. I'm wearing an Original Stitch shirt right now, where I got to choose all the different modules. What type of collar did I want? What color did I want? The fact that I could put images in the sleeve and so forth, the different fabric in the sleeve, I could monogram it on here, but also then my exact sizes, so I could fit my freakishly long arms, as my wife calls them, and in my torso and so forth, and everything is to a precise fit to me. And that's because they modularize all those pieces and can do different things at every one of those modules, things that fit my exact body. And I think apparel is a wonderful place for mass customization because every body is unique. Now, Lutron is actually the oldest mass customizer that I know of that has been doing this since the 1960s. And Lutron, the founder, the late Joel Spira, invented the dimmer switch. Right? That was the claim to fame, but they didn't stop there. They then went on to all these different types of lighting controls that they developed over the years, every one of which can be individually customized to you. Put together in different ways. They can have sensors that adapt to what you want. They can match any color that you want. They now have smart controls that connect into Alexa and allow you to specify what you're looking for, create different scenes in your house or in your offices and conference rooms and so forth. Right? Everything they do can be customized down to the individual. In fact, I wanted to show you this chart here. There's a chart that Lutron's given me that talks about the SKU number they have, right, that begins with the greatest number of cells. It's a private company, so they don't tell you exactly how many it is, right, but their biggest sellers will do tens of thousands of units every year, I think, at least thousands and thousands. And then it comes down to around, the 400th best-selling unit is here, and the 1800s is down here, where it's only doing tens of units of every year. But then actually it goes on from there, and it goes down and down until you get to about 4,000 or so, and now you get lot size of 1. Right? Every one is produced one time in this particular year, but then it doesn't stop. It goes on, and it goes on, and it goes on, right? And it goes on one more, right? Thanks to my freakishly long arms, right? Look, from around 400 to over 15,000, right? That's over 15,000 lot size of 1. Right? That is all thanks to how they modularize each of their units and architect them in a way that allows customers to specify exactly what they want. And you can think of it, they actually have infinite customization because they can actually match any color that you want across the spectrum, and they can make a lighting control exactly for that color. Now, when you think of modularity, think of Lego building bricks. Right? What can you build with Legos? Anything. Right? Anything you want. Why? Because you have a large number of modules, different sizes, different shapes, different colors, and a simple and elegant linkage system for snapping them together. Right? That's what modularity is. Modules plus linkage system. Now, I have in my hand 6 Lego bricks, and they're 2x4s, so there's 8 studs at the top, there's 3 tubes at the bottom, allow them to connect together. How many different ways do you think I could connect these 6 Lego bricks together, not counting color? Any engineers? Anyone?
6 by 5 by 4 by 3.
Right, 6 factorial, that's what engineers say, that's 720, right? That's a great guess, but completely wrong. If that's how many ways I can put these 6 colors together on top of each other just like this. But in fact, there are so many ways that these can connect together. The actual number, accounting all the different ways, is 915,103,765 with just 6 bricks. Right? That's the power of modularity. Right? When you modularize your products, or you modularize your processes, or even modularize information about your products and processes, then you can very quickly get down to individual customer demand. Now, I'm not going to go through this modularity typology. I published it in my book, Mass Customization, but it does talk about sectional modularity is what Lego bricks are across. And I always thought, what they're called, I always thought that was the most robust level of modularity. But I've realized most recently that there's another level of modularity. The most robust type of modularity that's ever been invented and ever will be invented is, in fact, digital modularity. Digits are modules, right? You have two values, 0 and 1. But you can string them together in zeros and ones forever that you can, anything you can digitize, you can customize. Once it enters the realms of zeros and ones, you can instantaneously change a 0 to a 1 and vice versa. And so anything you can digitize, you can customize. And that's why digital technology is again, so important. And a way, if we can digitize our products, if we can digitize our processes, if we can digitize information about those products and processes, then we can get down to that individual unit of demand and serve that individual customer. Automated Insights, for example, is a company that uses natural language generation. So they take in data and then they create stories, narratives about the data that they can then customize to every individual. So for example, in fantasy football season, they take all the raw data about every player and all the things that they've done and take that and turn it into a narrative for every one of their 70 million customers on Yahoo Sports, for example. Right? 70 million people are getting individual stories based off the data that they have created. They call it hyper-personalization. And why is all that possible? Because you can digitize it. And you digitize it, you can understand it, you can turn it into a story. You turn it into a story, you can make that story meaningful for every customer. So they spend much more time on Yahoo Sports as a result, and that's very, very much time that they view as time well spent. And that's what modularity allows you to do, right? It's really the core of what we're talking about, to be able to do customering. And what it also does is it allows you to stop producing economic waste, which mass producers do all the time. Anytime you see anything on sale, right, that's economic waste. They produce something that nobody wanted, and so they have to put it on sale. In the apparel industry, a dirty secret is actually like a huge percent, I'm talking 20, 30% of the apparel made every year is actually shredded. And because they couldn't even sell it on sale. And nobody wanted it, and that is economic waste. Anytime you use the Earth's resources to produce something that no individual customer wants, you've wasted those resources. But what mass customization and customering allows you to do is to do only and exactly what each individual customer wants, right? Only and exactly, that's the key. So you think about this capability of mass customization. The essence of mass customization is you have a portfolio of customers, every one of them individual, every one of them unique, every one of them deserving to get exactly what they want at a price they're willing to pay. And then you have a portfolio of capabilities. These are the things that you know how to do for customers that you modularize. And once you modularize them, you can understand every individual customer's needs, what do they want at this moment in time, and then bring down only and exactly what they want to create a customer unique experience chain, one developed just for them, where everything is dynamically linked together. So an example of that is PillPack, is a pharmacy in Boston, actually, that mass customizes the medicines that you get, right? So with the pharmacy, they get all of the different pills that you need to take. They put them into these little packets. That packet is the linkage system. The pills are the modules that you put there. They print your name on it. They print what each of the pills are. They print the day and the time that it's supposed to be taken. So you simply rip off every time when you're supposed to take those pills. And you ever wonder, like, did I take my pills this morning? I don't remember. Well, you just look, because if the pack isn't there anymore, you took them. If it is, you didn't take them. Not surprisingly, Amazon bought these guys for $1 billion, right, to get into the pharmaceutical pharmacy industry. The other thing you need in here is what I call a design tool. A design tool is something that allows you to match what customer needs with company capabilities, because customers don't always know what they need. And even if they know, they can't always articulate it. So how do you draw it out of them? How do you figure out what they need and then put that back into operations to do something unique for individual customers? And the easiest mistake that mass customizers make is they overwhelm their customers with too many choices. And fundamentally, customers don't want choice. They just want exactly what they want. So how do you help them figure out? And that's what a design tool is required to do. They don't have to be rocket science, right? You can go into Domino's pizza site and build your own pizza. See what all the modules look like on that particular pizza. Once it's exactly what you want, then you can press the order. And then not only that, you can track your individual pizza as it goes through the process of being made and getting in the oven and doing the quality check. And then that last light turns red just as they ring the doorbell and deliver it to your home. And of course, you can do that all on mobile, and you can track it on your watch if you want. Right? Those are design tools. And you need to do that in order to do only and exactly what each individual customer wants. Right? Key element of customering that it enables you to do. Then you need to go from products and services. Right? In other words, thinking about our offerings are only products and services, although in the banking industry, often it comes out like one word, products and services, really one long word. Instead, you need to understand the full possibility of creating economic value for your customers, that in fact goes far beyond products and services. And if you think about it, this is the core framework in the book, The Experience Economy, where we've gone from an agrarian economy based off commodities through an industrial economy based off goods, and in the latter half of the 20th century went into a service economy. And what happened is that both goods and services have all become commoditized. Or people treat them like a commodity, where they don't care who makes them, they care about the brands, they care about the features, the benefits, they're all pretty much the same anyway. They come to care about three things and three things only, and that's price, price, and price. Right? That's when your products and services have been commoditized. And what that means is that it's time to move to a new level of economic value, to go beyond the goods and services to staging experiences for your customers. So experiences are not a new economic offering, they've always been around, but we can now separate them out from services and say this is a distinct economic offering, as distinct from services as services are from goods. It's basically when you use goods as props and services as a stage to engage each and every person in an inherently personal way, and thereby create a memory, which is the hallmark of the experience. Right? Experiences actually reach inside of us. Commodities, goods, services, they exist outside of us. But in terms of customer, you're now reaching inside of the individual customer and engaging them. That's what it takes to create an experience, to engage each individual customer and then create that memory. And how I discovered this, again, is through mass customization, recognizing that if you mass customize a good, you automatically turn to a service. You mass customize a service, you turn it into an experience. Like customization is the antidote to commoditization. Commoditization is like the law of gravity. It drags you down year after year, but customization lifts you up. But there's also one more possibility, because experiences would be commoditized as well. Well, what happens when you customize an experience? What happens when you design an experience that's so appropriate for this particular person, exactly the experience that they need at this moment in time? Well, then you can't help but turn to what we often call a life-transforming experience. In other words, an experience that changes us in some way, and that we call a transformation. And a transformation is the fifth and final economic offering in this progression of economic value, where you're using experiences as a raw material to guide people to change, to help them achieve their aspirations. And this is the highest level offering you can create, because with transformations, the customer is the product. It doesn't matter all the stuff you do. The question is, did they achieve their aspirations? So whether you're in fitness centers, whether you're in healthcare, whether you are in management consulting with B2B customers, recognize that customers rarely buy what you're selling. What they really want is they want to be changed. And they're hiring you to help them do that. And so that's the full panoply of economic offerings that are available out there. And if you could summarize it with one word, is with individualization. It's getting closer and closer and closer. Right? Again, commodities, goods, services outside of people, experiences inside of us, and transformations change us from the inside. So you're individualizing your offerings, and that is a key thing with customering. Right? So understand the full panoply of economic offerings. And then the last principle I want to talk about is to go from multiple customers in a market, right? That's what markets are. All the customers are in this market. To actually going to multiple markets inside of a customer. Right? Understand multiple markets exist inside of a customer. And let me show you that way. When I get to this diagram, I always think about, okay, what's next? Every framework, I'm always asking what's next. And you think you get down to every customer's own market and that's it. But in fact, there is something next. And if I show it to you this way, I think you'll get it. As you think about mass markets, it's that all customers are part of that market. Segment markets, you still have many customers are part of the segments and then multiple segments. You get down to niches, you have fewer and fewer customers that are part of that particular niche market, but still multiple customers in the market. And then what you see, what that logical progression gets you down to is every customer is his own market again. And now perhaps you can see what's next. What's next is those lines cross. And we go from multiple markets in a customer, or multiple customers in a market to understand that there are multiple markets inside of each customer. This is where markets really do exist. The original definition of market is that place in the center of town, usually, where buyers and sellers would come together to exchange their wares for money. Right? That's what a market is, and that's what it is here. You need to understand, but what market am I in at this time? When I travel, and I'm traveling for business versus leisure, two different markets. When I bring my wife along, again, two more different markets. When I bring the kids along, two more different markets, right? And begins to multiply out there. And over time, you can see that in every industry you're in, that there are multiple markets within the customer. And how do I understand what market they're in at this moment in time? And that progression is only going to get more and more clear, particularly as thanks to our mobile phones, where we can do anything we want, basically, at any time that we want. So understand the multiple markets within each individual customer. So these are all the principles of customering. Thinking about going from this side to that side, from pushing to pull, from targeting to enticing and to learning relationships, from being product-centric to being customer-centric, focused again on the individual living, breathing customer, from going from finished products to modular capabilities, and therefore from producing economic waste, which you can't help but do if you have finished products, to getting down to doing only and exactly what each individual customer wants. Going beyond so-called products and services to understanding the full panoply of economic offerings, experiences, and transformations. And then finally going from multiple customers in a market to understanding multiple markets in every single customer. Now, one company I want to point to that I think is basically doing all of this is Carnival Corporation, the cruise company. I had the opportunity to be with the CEO of Carnival Corporation, Arnold Donald, at the 2017 Consumer Electronics Show, where they announced the Ocean Medallion. And the Ocean Medallion is this IoT device that allows them for the first time to know who every individual customer is on their ships. When you book a Carnival cruise, it's actually starting with Princess Cruises, and they've got 3 to 5 ships right now, and they're going to expand out to Princess Cruises, then on to each of Carnival's brands over time. And have a single customer image of each one of those customers, no matter what brand they're doing. But when you book that cruise, that they ask you to upload the image of your passport so you can get what they call Ocean Ready, and tell it your preferences for what you like to do on a cruise. Is it diving? Is it other sports? Is it entertainment? And so forth. And then they mail you an Ocean Medallion that is engraved with your name right on there that you bring with you. And whether you put it in your pocket, you have it on a watch pendant or a neck pendant and that, once you start going through there, every employee knows who you are. As you go up the gangplank, right, you don't have to show your passport again. You simply get close to them. They have a tablet, and up pops your name and your picture, and a check mark your Ocean Ready, and then you can go on the ship. You walk to your cruise, your stateroom door, and you touch the door and it completes the electrical circuit. They know it's you because of the Ocean Medallion, and it opens the door and greets you by name. And every employee can greet you by name. You don't have to pay for anything. You can do it with the medallion. But then they're also tracking your preferences, and they're tracking how you rate things, and they're tracking how much time you spend in particular experiences to see how well you like them, so they can give you personal experience invitations for what you might want to do, creating a mass customized itinerary, right, of that entire stay on the cruise. They can even understand the multiple markets within the customer. They can learn, for example, that if you are on the pool deck with your kids, your favorite drink is an iced tea with no lemon. When you're in a bar with your buddies, it's a mojito. And when you're in a restaurant with your wife, it's a glass of Shiraz. Right? Again, same customer, but based on the context. And now they can understand that context because of the digitization of it, the digital transformation that they are undergoing on each one of their ships. They can understand that individual customer and treat them individually and do all of the things we're talking about with customering. Right, so using that as an example, using all the principles that I've talked about, I think the key thing that we as companies need to undergo, particularly as we think about transforming digitally, which allows us therefore to customize to those individual customers, then we do in fact need to stop marketing and to start customering. Thank you, Alessio.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.